This is Business Rockstars at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Jeannie Yerman, and our guest is Tom Patterson. He is the CEO and founder of Tommy John. So let's talk about Tommy John. You guys make premium clothing now, not just for men, not underwear just for men, but now you make it for women too. True?
That's right. We launched women's in April.
So here's what I find fascinating about your business is that it's a very crowded space, and I didn't know you could get patents on underwear.
It's very difficult. So we actually have a utility patent on our undershirt because it stays tucked in through movement. Underwear is a little more difficult to do, but the undershirt is patented.
And what is that process like to get a patent?
It's painful. It took us almost 7 years to get our patent. A lot of pain, a lot of persistence, perseverance, a lot of applications, a lot of attorney fees. But it's something that we believed was really important, and I think it's really exciting that we actually have an IP component to our business now, which is really rare in the fashion space. It's not a tech component, but IP, we're trying to understand what it means to the business right now.
Are most of your sales in the U.S. or have you branched out? Or?
No, majority of the business in the U.S., a little bit in Canada. We ship to around 50 countries across the world.
What was it that you did? How did you go about getting your arms around the market and educating yourself to get into this space?
So my background being medical device sales, strategic selling, conceptual selling was something that was a big part of what I did on a daily basis. So for me to reach out to a department store buyer or sell into a men's specialty store was very similar to selling a medical device into a hospital system. So my skill set translated really well into the category in general. And I think what we found is in 2008 when we started, men's underwear was a really sleepy category. It really hadn't been reinvented or updated, and we thought the more we got into it and the longer we've been in it, we started learning that we were really disrupting the category in a different way and bringing innovation and technology and really modernizing it from maybe arguably the early 1900s or maybe even the Marky Mark days.
This is a classic case. This is kind of like your quintessential story of that startup business that you started in a tiny little space. Was it your then girlfriend, who's now your wife, was involved? Yep. Paint the picture for us. Talk to me about the early days and what that was like.
In the early days they weren't glamorous by any means. It was in our apartment, literally folding shirts, putting them in a bag, lint rolling our dog's hairs off of them. Putting a USPS sticker on it, and then the next day taking boxes to USPS before they had residential pickup. So it was a lot. You did what you had to do, and you didn't realize how hard it was until you look back at where the business is now compared to then. But we slowly grew, and our big break was 6 months into it. We started getting into men's specialty stores, and then about a year after we launched online, we got a purchase order from Neiman Marcus.
Okay, so you're starting to see traction. You're getting orders from these major retailers. You must have, at a point, stopped and said, I can't believe that this idea I had and my shirts bunching up is translating into this.
I mean, a little bit. I mean, I think you're so busy on growing the business that I didn't really take a lot of time to think about and reflect, because I just wanted to keep growing and growing and growing and expanding and reaching more customers and bringing more products to the market. But I think when you get into retailers like Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom, it's definitely a nod of credibility because they don't bring anybody into their stores. So you really have to have something that's unique and that stands out. And I think as we grew our product categories within there, we really had this level of understanding that we're doing something very different in the space. But there wasn't a lot of reflection in the early days, thinking like we've made it by any means, because we really bootstrapped the business, cashing out my 401k, my savings, using my friends at American Express and Visa and MasterCard to really finance the business. And every dollar we made went right back into inventory and marketing materials and design. So we weren't by any means taking money and enjoying everything that we had done. It was all reinvesting in the future potential of the business.
So how much of your business is online? You said you started off wholesale.
Yep.
selling to stores like Neiman Marcus. But now most of your sales are online?
Yeah, greater than 50% online. Like most brands, is the fastest growing channel of our business. But really, we're in over 1,000 points of distribution, to Nordstrom, to Men's Warehouse, to Bloomingdale's. But we also are opening up our second retail store in Charlotte, North Carolina this year, next month. So we're starting to branch out into our own stores as well.
To what extent would you credit the jump in sales to Kevin Hart and his endorsement, and now investment, right?
Investment, yeah.
And Howard Stern. Talk to me about that and what that was like before and after you kind of got their endorsements for the product.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a silver bullet by any means, but with Howard, it was really interesting is he talked about the product a couple times because he loved it so much before we became a paid advertiser. And then we started advertising in the Howard Stern show, and we went through 6 months of inventory in 45 days. And it was one of the challenging parts of our business because we just couldn't keep enough inventory in stock. But there was a great learning because we found a different channel to sell underwear through, not retail stores, but through audio, listening to Sirius Radio in your car, which is really a new channel to educate customers and make them aware of a brand. So now we advertise on podcasts, Sirius Radio. We've been doing it for 4.5 years. And then a couple years ago, Kevin Hart reached out to us because we had seen him dancing around in our underwear in an Instagram ad. I sent him a few pairs and with a little note and didn't think anything of it. I actually do that a lot to different people, and he reached out when he was in New York and said, "Tom, can I come meet with you? I'd love to learn more about the brand." That's it. I said, "Sure, come by." And he actually wanted to pay us through an investment to work with Tommy John because he loved the product so much. And that's been really exciting because Kevin is really one of these pioneers in social media that saw what was happening on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, arguably before a lot of other people in Hollywood. And with 100 million social media followers, Kevin said, "Tom, I can expose you to a much bigger audience, much faster. But not only that, this is probably the most authentic relationship you can have with someone talking about your brand because you're not paying me to endorse the brand. I'm actually paying you because I love the product so much." And I think we really love to do things different in ways that haven't been done before. And our partnership with Kevin and the way Howard developed are really unique and arguably the first time brands have done it that way in the space.
What is the best advice that was ever given to you as an entrepreneur?
From my mentor, Dana Freed, he said, make sure you build a profitable business. At the end of the day, you have to understand cash flow and margins, and you need to sell $1 for more than $1 if you're going to be able to build infrastructure and build a long-term sustainable business. And I think with what we've seen today in the market today, there's a lot of unprofitable businesses that have still yet to turn a profit. And we really pride ourselves on being profitable at the end of the day and not taking on more than you can swallow with the business, which can be tempting at times. Because growing fast is really exciting, but there's also some downsides if you guess wrong or if you buy too much inventory, if something crashes. And a lot of companies that grow too fast, they have a different set of problems.
Well, I wish you much continued success. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
From the NASDAQ Market site in Times Square, this is Business Rockstars.